Welcome everybody to the TheDomCast, episode 8. That means we are 2 months in, given that we've been doing one every single week. Doesn't feel like it at all either, time just flies. And with that being said, we are now 7 days from the playoffs, I believe? A week from the NBA playoffs? You would not understand how fast this season has went for me. This is my first season not being impeded on by school. Graduated last year, so this is the first time I've just got to sit down and enjoy a full season, and man, it just made it go faster. The fact that I've just had all this time to pay attention to it, it really just flew by. But I'm super excited though, for the first time in 4 years. Yeah, we are not gonna have a Warriors vs LeBron saga to end the season, and I am so glad because the rivalry just sucked. Once Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, it just wasn't at all entertaining to watch, so I'm happy that this year, given that there's no injuries, they're at least going to meet a full team in the finals, because last year, of course, Eastern Conference had some injuries. I believe that kind of aided in having a below average Cavaliers team in the finals, but this year, like any of the 4 possible candidates to make the finals, they're all full teams: Celtics, Raptors, Bucks, Sixers. Not saying they really have a chance against the Warriors, but it's just great to see something new, you know? So I'm excited for the playoffs. I'm hoping that some of these questions are about the playoffs. I'm assuming they are since we're so close. I'm just going to kind of go through this questionnaire that I put out yesterday and answer some questions at random. So King Keba is asking, what's more important, MVPs or championships? And that just totally depends on the player. If you're talking about from a fan's perspective, that totally depends on what you care about. Lately I've been reading a new basketball book. I actually don't know what this one is called. They based it off of some ESPN documentary that happened. I haven't even really looked at the title. Anyways, I'm on the section where it's basically been a lot of the old 60s Celtics players talking and Bill Russell. And it's been interesting because it kind of alludes to the perspective that I'm talking about, where a lot of parts are from Bill Russell, and it comes up like 3 or 4 times that all he cared about was winning. He didn't care about what stats he had. He didn't care how many shots he had missed. He did not care about anything except the W. And so that's Bill Russell perspective. But you know all players aren't like that. As a matter of fact, the whole thing that they were juxtaposing that with was Wilt Chamberlain. Obviously, Wilt wasn't around to give his own perspective for this documentary. I'm not sure when it happened, but it happened after his death. But everybody that talked about Wilt just kind of said the same thing. All he cared about was stats. He came into a season saying, like, this is what I want to accomplish as far as stats, and that's what he did because he was so dominant. He would go to the scorers table during the halftime of a game and check the stat sheet and tell the guys, nah, you got this wrong. This is how many assists I had. So different things are just important to different people, which is why we will never have a consensus answer on who the greatest of all time is. And that's just become clear because different people value different things. So like you see that with LeBron and Michael Jordan these days. A lot of the people who have LeBron as the GOAT, they just don't value winning as much. They value, what did this individual player do? And so I'm assuming for them, MVPs are probably more important than championships. And yeah, that from the players to the fans, it just totally depends what they like. For me, I would say it depends on who the player is. So if you're a player that's trying to be in the greatest of all time argument, I think championships and MVPs are both important. But I think championships might be a little bit more important because that's what you see from all the greats. If you go back and look at these players' testimonies during an MVP race, if they've ever been in one, even if they're not being like 100% honest, when someone asks them about the MVP race, they're like, yo, I don't care. I'm trying to win a championship this season. That's something along the lines of what Giannis said this season. Back when Kobe Bryant was winning championships and LeBron was winning the MVPs, that's what Kobe said. Like, you take the MVP, I'm going to get the championship. But obviously, if you're a player like Nick Young, then does the championship really matter that much? For guys that are role players, nobody's really judging how many championships they won. So yeah, it just totally depends. Andrew is asking, if Westbrook won MVP in 2017 for having a historic season, why can't Harden win for that now? Great question, because I've always felt this one coming. I'm a guy that thinks Giannis is going to win it. I'm a guy that has kind of maintained that the whole season, even when Harden has these ridiculous scoring outbreaks. I always kind of come in and say it's still Giannis at this point. And with that, I always knew the argument was going to come up because I always say I believe that Westbrook deserved his MVP in 2017. So then the low-hanging fruit would be to say, well, wasn't Westbrook a 4th seed that year, 6th seed? The team wasn't really that good. But Westbrook went on to take it, and what put him over the top was the amount of MVP moments he had, and then breaking Oscar Robinson's triple-double record, or not breaking, but becoming the first player since Oscar Robertson to be able to do that. And so the question will then be, okay, this year Giannis is the best player on the best team. And then Harden is having a historic season. He just became the first player to average 35 points and 7 assists in a season. I think that was the specific mark. And the Rockets look like they're going to finish around 3rd or 4th seed. So I knew the question would come up. And the thing I keep trying to get people to understand is that Westbrook is an exception and not a rule. I don't think he won the MVP solely because of averaging a triple-double, but that put him over the top. Because if you go back to that season, first of all, he completely subverted expectations. Kevin Durant left the Thunder, and we thought the Thunder were as good as dead. You had Westbrook, who is not a great shooter, surrounded by players that were not really great shooters. So as far as we were concerned, that team was dead in the water. But then Westbrook did everything for them, led them to wins, multiple MVP moments, and then on top of that broke a record that we didn't think would ever be touched again. Like, I just tweeted about that last night. It's official now that he's averaged a triple-double in 3 straight seasons. And the thing that I said was, you know, we just saw a record that we used to say would never be ever touched again. We looked at Oscar Robertson and said, yeah, that was in a different era. We looked at the talent, the number of teams, and we just said, in the modern day, that's never gonna happen. So he just did it 3 straight years. And we're all kind of bored of it now because we see it all the time. But back in 2017, that was otherworldly. So the thing is, to win MVP in a season when your team is a lower seed, especially when there's someone that might deserve it that has a higher seed than you, I think it really takes something of epic proportions like Westbrook did. So the 35-7 is amazing from Harden, but I don't think that's held to the same esteem as the record was in 2017 when we hadn't seen someone average a triple-double since the 1960s. I don't think that this is going to put Harden over Giannis because while Harden is doing all these amazing things, it's simply getting lost on people who are not watching Giannis that he's doing amazing things too. Giannis is basically leading the best team in the NBA record-wise at least in everything. Points, rebounds, field goal percentage. And it's a historic stat line as well. Guys do not just average, what is he averaging, like 27 and 13 or something like that? Guys don't just do that. Just how Harden is wrecking offenses, do you see how the Milwaukee Bucks guard him? They like go on his side. People are trying to invent new ways to defend Harden. It's the same thing with Giannis. Even with him not having a shot, people are trying to put their big men on him. They're putting Embiid on him. They have their 7-footers hanging back at the free throw line trying to guard this man, and he's still going for 40. I think Giannis's performance is getting lost because he doesn't have all the same MVP moments Harden has because he simply doesn't play as flashy. He doesn't have the step back 3-pointers, the jump shot. He doesn't have that, yet he is still as effective. And he's the catalyst and the leader on an amazing team, so I just don't see how his performance is being wiped away. I think it's a decent comparison with what Harden has done this season, saying, well, Westbrook got it in a lower seed for something historic, so why can't Harden? But again, in a season where offense has become completely unchained, I just don't think people are going to hold these records to the same esteem as what we saw when Westbrook first broke the triple-double record, which is something we never thought we would see. Seeing somebody average 35 in a season, it's amazing, but it's something that I don't think anybody thought we wouldn't see again. The game is clearly going this way, and I'm not saying it's not amazing. I'm comparing 2 amazing things to each other. Other thing that you have to consider here is that in 2017, I believe Harden and Westbrook were the 2 frontrunners for the MVP. You also had LeBron in there and Kawhi Leonard. But as far as the 2 people we knew could get the award, it was basically Harden and Westbrook. The thing about that is, I believe Harden was also not a first seed that year. What were they? They were probably like 3rd seed. So it was not as steep of a hill for Westbrook to climb because both of them were on teams that were not really front runners. This year, Harden has a steeper hill to climb than what Westbrook had to climb to win it because the other MVP candidate, we're basically saying right now as the season is ending, the 2 guys that can win it would be Giannis and Harden. This time you're talking about Giannis, who is on a 60-win team. I believe they're going to end up with 60 wins and the best record in the NBA. So with that being the competition, it is also just it's a harder thing to pull off than it was for Westbrook. That's what I'm trying to say here. If the Rockets were the 3rd seed and then the Bucks were like the 3rd or 4th seed, then I think it would be a bit more comparable to what was going on in 2017. Beantown Kid is asking, what would be a finals matchup you'd like to see? Say the Warriors didn't make it for some reason, what matchup would you like to see? Wow, I think about this all the time. Who doesn't dream about, parity in the NBA Finals, which we have not seen since basically 2016. Yes, if the Warriors don't make it, I do dream about that. There's a couple of matchups I'd like to see. Easily the Bucks and the Rockets. I'd love to see that settled between Giannis and Harden, the two MVP candidates. That would be a perfect way to exit the Warriors dynasty. These terrible NBA finals that they've been a part of, the first thing we get exiting that is two players who are the front runners for MVPs with great teams. Oh, I'd love that. So that's one. Celtics and Rockets would be nice. Basically, any of the top 4 teams playing the Rockets, I'd like to see that. I'm trying to stay realistic, talking about what could realistically happen. With the Thunder and Paul George's shoulder, I just don't know if it's realistic that they could make the NBA Finals even if the Warriors weren't around. The chance was much higher when Paul George was a legitimate part of the MVP race, but whatever is going on with his shoulder, they are just not as great of a team without him being able to produce at that level. Yeah, there's really no finals that I want to see with the Nuggets. I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't care for a Celtics Nuggets type series or a Bucks Nuggets. I don't care about that. Yeah, any finals that I would like to see would be like a healthy Thunder and Rockets versus any of the top 4 in the East. I could live with almost any of those, to be honest with you. Like, could you imagine Westbrook and Embiid in the finals? That'd be awesome. Other than that, I don't think there's any other West teams that I would really care to see there that could realistically make it. Like, obviously, I'd be wrong if I said if the Warriors disappeared, the Nuggets couldn't realistically make it. They could. That just would not be that exciting to me. NY Kid is asking, what if T-Mac got traded to LA during the draft? Wow, who is this kid and how do you know what I've been writing? Yeah, next week, possibly tomorrow or on Monday, you will see the 8 players, why 8 players were drafted before Tracy McGrady. And there's only a few of you that come to see this show, so it won't really be ruining it. In that video, you will see the story of how, if you didn't already know, I'm pretty sure people already know, but I was obliged to mention it in this video, that Jerry West did want Tracy McGrady in the draft. West has just literally always had an eye for talent. That's how he stole Kobe. So T-Mac worked out for him the very next year, and Jerry West was like, I want this kid. However, Jerry Buss and the general manager of that Lakers team did not agree. That was at a time when they had Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel, Shaquille O'Neal. They had what they thought was the makings of a championship team, so they did not want to have to sacrifice an Eddie Jones to get Tracy McGrady because they had already taken on Kobe Bryant, which was a project high school kid. They did not want another project in T-Mac because one high school kid they were cool with, but sacrificing a piece of a championship team to have 2 high school kids, they were like, nah. But yeah, in the '97 draft, if Jerry West would have had his way, you would have had a young Kobe and a young T-Mac next to a Shaq. And in that video, I basically say, I don't know how that would have worked out. We love to imagine that these great players just figure it out, but all we have to go off of is what we saw. And we know Kobe was possessed and driven to become the best player possible to try to match Jordan. So there was already problems with him and Shaq like out of the gate. I just don't know that there would have been room for Kobe and T-Mac there. It really depends on T-Mac because one of the things with him as a prospect was he had a great wingspan. They were comparing him to Scottie Pippen. They were saying he would have great defensive ability. So if Kobe is just allowed to be the alpha on the perimeter, and T-Mac is okay fitting into his role as a sometime scorer but mostly a defender, then that works out beautifully. That's an unbeatable dynasty probably as it develops. But we also then know that Tracy McGrady left the Raptors to go to Orlando. It was closer to home, but I don't know, did he also do that because he really wanted his own team? Did he want to have more touches? I don't know, I'm literally just putting that out there because if he did, then it kind of feels like he would have left LA for the same reason. He would not be getting the same touches next to Kobe. So in short, if that would have happened, if LA could have managed that, it has dynasty potential. But in the event that you have 2 high school kids trying to prove themselves and break out, I don't know how long it lasts and I don't know how successful it is. It's very fun to just imagine a bunch of talent on the same team and certain guys next to each other, but sometimes we forget there is a human element to all this, and there's a lot of nuance to it. Like, you really have to think about a young Kobe Bryant trying to become the next Michael Jordan while Tracy McGrady is trying to develop. How does that work? I don't know. I wish we would have gotten that version of history though. Speaking of Kobe, Sub Air is asking, why did Kobe not pass MJ as the GOAT? Was it because of the gap in athleticism? Well, there's really multiple reasons he didn't pass him as the GOAT. Some of it circumstance, some of it because of how he handled certain situations in his career. From studying both of their careers, I'll say a few things. One, there is the part where Kobe Bryant is kind of seen as a attempted copy of Jordan, and he just never fully recreated his greatness. So the thing is, you have like a LeBron and Jordan debate right now, and since they're not the same player, there's a lot of discussion to be had there. They play different play styles, so there's so many different things you could talk about. But with Kobe and Jordan, Kobe copied him down to his moves, his mannerisms, They played the same position. So you can just look at certain things and say, okay, did Kobe Bryant pass him here? No, he didn't. It's very easy to kind of look at certain things and be able to say that. But I also think it has to do with like how their career started. One thing that probably helped, even though I'm a big advocate for eliminating one and done so players can just go straight to the NBA the way Kobe did. One thing that probably helped is that Jordan actually went to college. From what I read on Michael, it seems like that really helped his development as a player, and he probably would not have been the same if he just jumped straight from high school to the league. He could have done it, but going and playing in the program that he did, it seems like that honed him in a bit. Kobe Bryant coming straight from high school, whether he could have had more of an impact or not, depending on the team that he was drafted to, because he jumped from high school, a team, the Lakers specifically, had him coming off the bench first. He had to prove a lot of things first. He was coming behind a lot of talent, so got off to a way slower start. And then when he did move up and take the starting spot, of course you're next to Shaq. See, Jordan's career didn't start like that. Jordan came into the NBA and he was the man from day one. And then when the teams did start contending, there was no debate about whose team it was. It was Jordan's team. Scottie came along for it and helped him out, but that was Jordan's. So of course, as the whole thing, I am not one of the people that say Shaq carried Kobe, but for those first 3 titles, there's a dispute about who was the man. And Jordan does not have that anywhere in his career, so that helps him out. Then of course you have the same thing that Jordan has over LeBron, where Jordan was simply the better finals performer. Kobe's got the 2008 loss, which was embarrassing on some levels when you consider how it happened, because when they went down 3-1, it was in large part because the Lakers blew a lead and Kobe Bryant had a terrible game. Then of course you have 2004, where he was still with Shaq and he is pegged with shooting them out of that finals. He had a terrible series that year. Then of course the accolades. Jordan's got way more MVPs, more accolades in general really. There's just so many places where Kobe Bryant did not pass him, but because their play styles were so similar, of course the comparison exists. That's how you get things where Jordan tells you that Kobe Bryant is one of the only players, or really the only player that should be compared to him. And in a way he's right, not because there's not a player better than Kobe, but more so because they played the same role. You know, a thing that happens with the comparison with Jordan and LeBron is we always talk about LeBron's court vision and his passing, and I think it kind of gets passed off as, well, Jordan couldn't do those things, and that's simply not true. Jordan has a very, very tiny stretch of his career, I forget exactly what year, but the time that he played point guard, and he racked up triple doubles, he had that vision. But again, this goes back to the nuance I was talking about earlier. It seems like people only look at surface things. One thing that people don't look at is, well, what is a player asked to do in his career? Jordan on the Bulls team was literally asked to score and defend. Distributing wasn't really so much part of it. But what if he had been asked to do that? What if that point guard experiment turned into his career role? How differently would we look at his career today? What would his stats look like? Those are just the type of things people ignore. But I mean, I get it. We can't really talk about hypotheticals when you're just comparing 2 players straight up. But I just thought I'd mention that since it gets passed off as a thing that Michael just really didn't do or couldn't do. It's like, no, the skill was there. Papa is asking, how do you feel about Duke not making the Final Four? I'm not surprised. It really felt like there were a couple of games there that Duke just survived. Of course, you had UCF that really should have beaten them. Then you had the next game where the guy misses a layup that could have gone into overtime. So when they finally end up losing a close game, that just really did not surprise me. I'm a bit disappointed because I'm a Zion stan. So I wanted to see them go all the way. I was just kind of interested in it. I love watching Zion play. It's fascinating because a lot of the things he does just seems like things that you've really never seen before. So disappointed, but hey, now there's no chance for Zion to get hurt again. His foot's not going to explode through his shoe, so I'm happy that apparently he's made it to the NBA draft safely, and we will see who wins the Zion sweepstakes in about 3 months here. That is going to be a fun day. Chris is asking, will injuries hinder the Bucks in the playoffs? You know, it could, and yeah, this is another thing that I think about. I think about it deeply because of the Celtics playoff run. At the current rate, it seems like they're going to draw Indiana in the first round, although I don't know because it looks like there is now a chance for them to hop into the 3rd seed. I don't really want that because if they flip into the 3rd seed, they are going to play maybe the Nets or the Pistons. And to be totally honest with you, I know Indiana has done good in keeping themselves above water without Oladipo. But in a playoff series, I would rather deal with an Oladipo-less Pacers team than like Blake Griffin on the Pistons or a surging Nets team or a healthy Magic team. Like, just being 100% honest, I don't think the Pacers are going to be that great in the playoffs. I think that is ideal for Boston to have home court advantage against a team without its star. Playoff basketball is different. That shouldn't be that crazy of a series. However, in the event that they stay where they are in the 4th seed right now, that means that they would draw Milwaukee in the second round. I low-key prefer that over Toronto because of Milwaukee's health. At a minimum, it seems like they will be missing Brogdon. Also, at a minimum, they will be reintegrating guys, so I don't even know if Gasol is going to get playoff minutes now. They signed him. He didn't really play for them because the injury seems to have struck very quickly. Yeah, Gasol only played 3 games for them, so I don't think he's going to get minutes regardless. You've got the rookie that's out, and then Mirotic, who I don't know when he's coming back. But again, when a team has been shaken by injuries and they have to reintegrate guys, I just kind of feel like maybe I'd rather deal with that than a totally fine and well-oiled Toronto team in the second round. But honestly, pick your poison, right? Both of them are amazing teams regardless. Both of them have amazing star players. But yeah, I have been thinking about that lately. I was like, would you rather deal with the Raptors in the second round, a well-oiled, healthy machine, or the Bucks, who have definitely been not hampered or anything, but they've taken some bumps and some dings here. Giannis has got a small ankle thing going on. He comes up limping sometimes. I want to see a healthy series, by the way. I'm just saying, since I have to look at the playoff road, I'm looking at which road would you rather take. And right now, Milwaukee looks slightly more doable than Toronto in the second round, because we're going to have to see both of them either way if we're going to the finals. And yeah, injuries could affect them. They were I think they were more of a sure thing before all these guys started going out. Like, losing Brogdon hurts. And even if he does come back, is he really going to be able to just integrate into playoff basketball just like that? Is he going to be as great? Yeah, those are things to think about. But from a Celtics fan who's going to have to see them eventually, I might want to see them earlier while the injury effects may still be taking a toll. And I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you guys for coming through. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, comment, and sub, and hit the bell next to the channel name if you want notifications when this comes out every Saturday. Also, the links are in the comment section and the description for the Spotify and iTunes in case you find it hard to watch this on YouTube. You can listen to this while you're just doing something else, or you're in the gym, or wherever you delight. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.